Welcome to Rage Against the Mainstream, your full spectrum source for all things music, insight, and opinion. Today's date is November 1st, 2021. My name is Bill, and I guess you're just the regular co-host now.
I could be the regular co-host now.
For those of you that have been living under a rock or haven't been listening to the show, I'm introducing Michael.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Michael? How's it been since the past week?
Good. Everything's good. Crazy weather, but good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice that we're getting out of the 90-degree days and the super high 80s. I'm done with that. But, yeah, I mean, I could probably do without the rain.
Yeah, the wind and the rain.
So, have you encountered anything new or interesting in the past week?
Yes, I read a funny story about Led Zeppelin. Their, sorry, I got an itch my eye. Their, the song Black Dog.
Yeah.
The way, if you listen to the song, the Black Dog is not mentioned in the song.
Yeah, actually, I
yes.
Yeah.
The way they named the song is they were recording the song at the studio, one of the studios out in the country, and a black lab just happened to walk into the studio.
Are you serious? That's how they got the name of the song.
Yep. And they decided they didn't have a name for the dog, and they said, and the dog was real friendly. They said, well, let's just call this song Black Dog. And that's how the song got titled.
That's almost like how we came across the name of this podcast, too. Just like out of nowhere. That's actually really, I've always wondered why that was the name of that song. Because they've never was never mentioned ever.
No, it's because there was a friendly black lab that was roaming around the farm, and they happened to walk into the studio as they were recording this song.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to top that one, because that's like one of those, like the 7 wonders of the world. It's like the 8th wonder of the world.
Yeah.
My new and interesting for this week is Jerry Cantrell this past Friday released Brighton. It's his newest solo album from I think Degradation Trip Part 2 came out in like 2002 or 4. So it's been a very long time, and fans of Jerry Cantrell's solo stuff and Allison Chains would really enjoy this. It's got more of like a southern rock or regular rock type feel to it, but it's still Jerry Cantrell. I think my standout track off this album is the title track, Brighton.
Why did it take so long between albums?
Allison Chains got back together, and they were just, they were on that. We talked about it before on the show. It's just like the whole, like, record tour, that whole thing. They were just on that path. And it was funny. Like, I mean, right before COVID happened, you could be guaranteed every year around August you're going to see Allison Chains in Campton.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for fans of Jerry Cantrell or Allison Chains in general, this album's definitely something to check out. I enjoyed it.
On this day in music history.
On this day in music history, November 1st, 1959, Elvis Presley's current stint in the U.S. Army means that for the first time in nearly 5 years, no Elvis single resides on the Billboard charts. That's something that would never happen in today's world.
No. Elvis was doing his duty. He got drafted. Mm-hmm. And everybody said it would be good publicity. Don't go in and try to be different, be like a regular soldier. that's what he did.
Yeah.
He lived with everybody else, all the other privates. He helped them. From what I read, he bought them TVs for the barracks, and he bought new fatigues for everybody, and he donated his army salary to charity.
No, that's cool.
Yes, and he was just one of the guys.
Yeah, something like that would never happen in today's world.
No.
Ever. Elvis was one of a kind. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah, and he but they also had enough recorded material of his that they kept putting stuff out while he was in the army. So there's really no break in Elvis music. They were still able to release music.
That's funny.
Yeah. And and while he was in Germany, he also that's where he met Priscilla.
In Germany.
Yes, I guess her father was she was an army brat, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And she was only 14 at the time. And they got married 7 years later, I think when she turned 21. But that's where, so he wouldn't have met her if he wasn't in the army and got stationed in Germany.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Elvis doing his civic duty at the time.
Yeah, right?
Okay, in 1985, on November 1st, the Recording Industry Association of America, the RIAA, agrees to some demands made by another initial organization, the Parents Music Resource Center, PMRC. As a result, any album deemed to contain offensive lyrics must be issued with a warning label, or the lyrics must be printed on the sleeve. Most record companies went with the labels, which doesn't hurt the sales at all.
If anything, it probably made it better. Probably made the sales more because all the cool albums had the parental advisory sticker on them.
Yep, this was a big deal. There were hearings in Congress.
Yeah, that's where that famed Dee Snider one came from, where he actually is like a competent human being, but you never know it.
And Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa was one of the biggest opponents to this.
Really?
Yeah, he testified before Congress. This is against freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You know, if there's books written that have explicit language in it, there's no sticker on the front of a book.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's infringement on freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if parents have to do a little more work.
Yeah.
To find out what their children are listening to and if they should be listening to it or not. Here they're trying to put a sticker on it saying, hey, there's explicit stuff on here.
Yeah.
You know, there's arguments on both sides.
Well, you know what's funny is that back then, music was very tame compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
And like you hear the stuff that comes on the radio now, and it's like back then that shit wouldn't have flown in the 80s.
Every new release now would have a sticker on it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
that was a big deal.
Yeah, and that was led by like Tipper Gore, wasn't it? Al Gore's wife.
Yeah.
There was that was everybody was under fire for that.
Yeah.
I remember the big one was like remember Wasp was on there for Fuck Like a Beast. I mean,
yeah,
go figure, but
and the whole thing with Frank Zappa was his music didn't have any of those lyrics.
No.
But he was one of the biggest opponents of it. And just for freedom of speech. It's like,
yeah.
You know, this is, we're allowed to write music. And if you don't write music however we want to, whatever words are in there, and if you don't want to listen to it, don't.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't want your children to listen to it,
don't let them listen to it.
Don't let them listen to it. You have to do your homework.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's the same with TV. If it's a TV show coming on back then, and you didn't want your children to watch it, you didn't let them watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
nowadays there's no controlling that kind of stuff. They don't even bother with the parental advisory stuff anymore.
Modern technology, you can see or listen to whatever you want whenever you want it. But back then, it was a really big deal.
Oh yeah. Speaking of big deals, here in 1994, Mariah Carey's album "Merry Christmas" is released. By the end of the year, it has sold over 3 million copies in America, becoming one of the most popular Christmas albums of all time. and home of my favorite Christmas song, All I Want for Christmas. See, like, Christmas music has always been kind of cheesy to me.
Right.
But, like, that particular song is, like, different because it's not, you know, the 15th rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that you've heard before.
Yeah, Mariah Carey, she was big. I mean, she still can sing. I mean, she was just could sing, had that natural talent. She wasn't very liked as her personality, but she could sing.
Oh yeah, there's no, you can't take that from her at all. I mean, it was funny. What was it? A couple years ago, she had done like All I Want for Christmas Is You on like New Year's Eve or some shit. I don't know. And like they had pulled the audio from the microphone, and it's like oh my god, like she can't sing anymore. It sounds like David Lee Roth on stage now.
Yeah, but she could sing. She was very popular back there in those days.
Actually, if I remember correctly, I think I was watching the David Foster documentary, and they did a thing, like a part where Celine Dion was recording something, and she couldn't like hit like a note or something, or she was struggling with it. And I think one of the tactics that he said was, "Well, Mariah Carey's in the next studio over. I can see if she can do it for you." That's another one too. If you haven't seen it, the David Foster one, very good documentary.
Yep, I think he's so underrated. You don't hear enough about him and everything he did as a producer.
He brought Chicago back. He made them even bigger than they were.
Yeah, and he wrote a lot of great songs too. You didn't realize. Okay, 1994. Nirvana's MTV Unplugged in New York album, taken from a performance a year earlier, is finally released. The album tops the charts in many countries, including the US, UK, and Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I've liked Nirvana's Unplugged. We've had this conversation before, not me and you, but me and Steve and our previous co-host. And I feel like Nirvana's Unplugged is overrated for what it is compared to like the other Unplugged offerings, including Alice in Chains' and Pearl Jam's. I think that they're better than Nirvana's, but Nirvana for some reason had the more iconic one.
Yeah, Eric Clapton.
Yeah, Eric Clapton's one was great. Stone Temple Pilots did a really good one. I mean, pretty much every Unplugged is really good, but Nirvana's, I think, gets like this giant level of credibility that I don't think it deserves.
It was this concept at MTV, because MTV was constantly in your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Music was always in your face. Boom, 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 in your face, in your face. Somebody came up with an idea. Hey, let's give these people acoustic guitars, put them on a round stage and see what they can do. I don't know who came up with the idea. Yeah. But it was actually brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of the, if I remember correctly, one of the first ones was with Metallica.
Probably. Hold on. I'll look this up while we're sitting here.
And they showed up with their electric guitars and everything. And they were like, oh, no, this is Unplugged. You guys need to play acoustic guitars. And they were like, we don't know what to do. So many artists it was a challenge to them. And it wound up being turned out really well for a lot of them.
Let's see. The series first aired November 26, 1989, featuring Squeeze, Sid Strahl, Elliot Easton. First 3 episodes featured Aerosmith, Elton John, Sinead O'Connor, Poison, Joe Satriani, Stevie Ray Vaughan, among others. Yeah, I mean, there's been everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody that's anybody did. Yeah,
once they saw and saw what it was about, like, hey, we should do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it turned out to be a big thing.
The only, I guess, the real reason why Nirvana's Unplugged in New York did as well as it did, not only because Nirvana was the megalodon band that they were, but it also came out a couple months after Kurt Cobain had died. So, you know, this is like the last thing you're going to hear from Nirvana until they release those box sets where they had absolutely everything else on them anyway. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that it topped the charts in anything because everything Nirvana put out, sold. 1999, with getting music over the internet still a novel concept and technical challenge, Third Eye Blind offer their single Anything exclusively online. It's free, but it can only be played for 3 weeks. I don't think I remember this song, Anything.
I don't remember this either. I just remember that when the music started coming out over the internet, it was a free for all. Because all of a sudden all these file sharing, and do you pay or don't you pay? How do they keep track of royalties? Who's playing the music? Who isn't? It's
okay. Not gonna understand why I haven't heard this song before.
But see, now you can just pull it up in 5
Yeah,
seconds.
Exactly. We got it in real time now.
Yeah, you can pull it. But back then, it was brand new, and it's like, okay, we first came the CD. I was like, wow, you have music on this little disc now. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you can get it over the internet. First of all, most people didn't have internet service at that point. And if you did, you had the modems, so it probably took 3 hours to download.
Yeah, could you imagine if you spent that kind of time? Like, I do remember sitting in front of the computer downloading music and it taking forever.
Yeah.
Could you imagine sitting in front of the computer, like being a Third Eye Blind fan, and like waiting for this song, and like you're sitting there for like 3 hours and you absolutely hated it.
And then you can only play it for 3 weeks. Damn, that's...
Well, they probably had site like space or whatever. It took up too much memory on the website, or too much space on the website.
But it's free, but you can only be... How can they put a time? I guess they knew how to put a timer on the file that was only good for 3 weeks, and then the file wouldn't be any good anymore.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Boy, times have changed.
Yeah, I know. Now you can just rip shit off of YouTube.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I mean, I pay for everything I listen to.
That is why all the major artists have sold their catalogs.
Yeah.
To a publisher or some type of media company.
Yeah.
Every day you hear of somebody else selling, so-and-so sold their entire catalog for $250 million to this so-and-so company. So they can so they don't have to worry about royalties anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. I think the days of like seriously big money being made out of the music industry are over.
Yeah, right. And that's why they did it.
Yeah.
So I'm just some invested, live off the interest. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm out. And hey, that's what they do. And
yeah, exactly.
These companies can take that music and do whatever they want with it. Put it in commercials. Put it,
Well, this is one of those things they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, what was it? I think it was like Right Now by Van Halen was going to be was in the Kodak commercial. Mm-hmm. And they originally didn't want to sell the rights to the song. And from what I've heard, I forget what interview it was, but someone basically said to them, like, either you're going to like let us do this or we're going to get a band that's going to cover it and it's going to sound just like it. And so they made the right choice, I guess. I do remember that commercial, though. The Van Halen Right Now one.
Yep. And that's been used, Right Now has been used on a number of commercials.
I think Pepsi, too.
Yeah, Pepsi used it. Yep.
Yeah.
Pepsi used it. Yep.
Pepsi was the one where it happened. Yeah.
Okay, 2005. Black Sabbath is inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame by Brian May of Queen. The band plays Paranoid at the ceremony, and Ozzy moons the crowd, feeling that they aren't rocking hard enough. Typical Ozzy.
Yeah, it sounds like something he would do.
Sounds like something he would do, yeah.
In 2005, he was off his rocker back then.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he was ever on his rocker.
Yeah. Black Sabbath is one of those bands I always wished I could have saw live. Just to be able to say, like, I saw Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I love their music. I love Ozzy, obviously, but, like, Black Sabbath, I feel like is, like, one of those bands. It's like seeing, like, Led Zeppelin. Yeah. Except Led Zeppelin was a little bit more, like, if you had seen them, it's, like, more, like, treasured because they only had a short amount of time. Black Sabbath did, like, 4 farewell tours.
Yeah, and seeing Ozzy on stage was just, he was a showman. Mm-hmm. So it was always a treat.
Even till today, he is. Yeah. Like even the last tour he did, I saw, and he still brings it every night. So, speaking of Ozzy and Nirvana and Mariah Carey and Elvis Presley, they all have albums that are considered some of the greatest of all time. Now, I don't want to talk about albums that are the greatest of all time. I want to talk about the albums that are the greatest of all time to us. And by that, I mean albums that you can't skip songs on. From start to finish, you can't, like, you can, obviously, you can click skip. Yeah. But you don't want to because the album is telling a story or it's just good. Every song on it is good. I have a few and I see you have a giant list.
Mine kept growing. I don't know why. Because I looked at the titles on the album, like, yeah, I just put this on and let it go.
I guess I'll start with the oldest one first. Well, oldest one on my list, and it should come as no surprise, Van Halen 1.
I have that one also.
Yeah, from start to finish, you can skip a song, but there's no reason to because all of them have a good energy from start to finish. I mean, you start out, with Running with the Devil and you end with Ice Cream Man. And it's just this whole big thing with Eruption in the center. It's like you went to a rock concert in your car.
Right. Yep, that's the way it was. Yep. I used to, when I leave for gigs or whatever, just put that in and just let it go.
It's an undeniable album.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Van Halen 1, 1978.
1978. I have ones older than that.
That does not surprise me.
No. Now with the Beatles, you probably say, oh, every Beatles album is great and everything. Mm-hmm. But Abbey Road is probably their one album that you can start to finish and it'll just let it go. Most of the second side is a medley anyway, because the ones they go into each other. But the entire album, there's not a bad song on there or a mediocre song that you would skip.
Abbey Road's my personal favorite from the Beatles.
Yeah. So that would be the one from the Beatles that I would pick. I have Zeppelin 2 and 4.
They're both great.
And they didn't have a bad song on them.
No.
Yeah. One, for me, Zeppelin 1 got a little boring. Sometimes it was the first, some of the stuff got a little long and drawn out. But it's Zeppelin. But 2 and 4 are the ones for Zeppelin that I think.
Oh, yeah. Staying in, the hard rock and heavy metal realm, the next one that I have is AC/DC's Back in Black.
Yep, I have that one too.
That's another one where it's just from start to finish. Like, you can skip songs, but there's no reason to. All of them just flow together, and by the time it's said and done, you haven't even realized you spent an hour listening to an AC/DC album.
And
now you're all hopped up, too.
Yeah, I do believe it's in the top 5 selling albums of all time.
Yeah. Yep, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
It's such a good album, and you have the Brian Johnson and the Bon Scott purists that don't like Back in Black, and it was the commercial one, and blah blah blah. But you can't deny how good it was.
It was, yeah.
And in my opinion, I don't think AC/DC have topped it.
No. Another old one, which is a little off track, is Crosby, Stills, and Nash, their first album.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of people would say Deja Vu, which came later, but their first album, if you look at the track list on their first album, it's not a bad song on it.
Now, is that when Neil Young was in it?
No, this is just Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Okay.
And it just starts and keeps going, and there's not a bad song on it.
Let's see here. Continuing on my list here. Another undeniable one, Thriller.
Yep, I have that one too.
Yeah, like
I looked at that song list. I'm like, there's 2 songs on there that aren't as well known as the rest, but they're great songs.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to them, it's like, whoa.
Absolutely. Thriller's another one of those. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, Quincy Jones knew what he was doing. It's funny too, because I've often thought about it. Like, when they were recording this album, did they think that they were getting ready to make the biggest album of all time?
Yeah.
I don't think they knew that, but they knew they were making something that was going to stand the test of time. I mean, and it's funny too, because the personnel on Thriller, I mean, actually I'm going to type it in here real quick, because I definitely want to be right. The people on, or the musicians on this album, I mean, it's just absolutely nuts. Basically, you had Toto.
Yeah, Toto was
essentially the band behind it. I mean, you can look here. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the amount of personnel that was on this album.
Yeah, just having Jeff Porcaro just playing drums is like, yeah.
Yeah, and having Steve Porcaro playing keyboards. I mean, this album had Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and of course, you know, you cannot forget the guitar solo played on "Beat It."
Eddie Van Halen, right?
Yep. And I feel, I mean, I'm not going to say Thriller sold because Eddie Van Halen was on it, but I do feel like the fact of him being on that album made Thriller appeal to the rock audience as well.
Yes, it definitely broke barriers, crossed the boundaries. It broke racial barriers, especially on MTV.
Oh, yeah.
Before the Michael Jackson videos, MTV was basically a white music channel. It was all white music. And then along comes Michael Jackson across the Thriller video, which was brought everybody to another level.
Yeah, one of the greatest music videos of all time.
And then it became, okay, well, it broke those racial barriers for MTV.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Billie Jean was a mega hit too, but the Thriller video was like the one. But yeah, that's another undeniable one. Thriller is just undeniable. There's a reason why it is one of the best-selling albums of all time. And they're going to remember this album way longer than they're ever going to remember anything that you and I have ever done.
Yeah, every single song is unforgettable.
Yeah. Every one of them.
And I mean, you could tell he was coming up to that from the album before that. You could tell he was about to. The album before that, Off the Wall. Before that, yep. And you could see what was happening. Yep. And then you knew something big was coming. And then once this one came out, it lived up to it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good songs on Off the Wall too.
Yeah. And that's what it was leading up to.
Yeah, but yeah.
That's how he became the king of pop.
Yeah, exactly. That was the album that did it. What else you got on your massive list, Michael?
I'm going to go progressive a little bit.
Okay.
With Yes, there's a lot of choices, but I think it's Close to the Edge. Because you have the whole first side is Close to the Edge. And the second side, you got And You and I and Siberian Cantrell. So you just keep going. And right as Close to the Edge fades out at the end, the acoustic guitar starts for the beginning of In You and I. And at the end of that comes the introduction to Siberian Catrue, and it just keeps going. You just, before you know it, it's done.
That's the thing. I kind of feel like it's unfair because you only have 3 songs that you could skip. And if you skip one, it's the whole album.
Yeah. With progressive stuff, yeah. The same thing with Genesis. I mean, with Genesis, the earlier stuff, a lot of people would say selling them by the pound. But I look at Foxtrot, which was an earlier album, which to me, I mean, it had Supper's Ready on it, which was 25 minutes, but it also had some other really, really great songs on it. And there wasn't a bad one. I mean, it had Watcher of the Skies, which is something that everybody recognizes from them. Get 'Em Out by Friday and Can Utility and the Coastliners. These are songs that, if you listen, they just go right down. And Timetable was that one in the middle. It was a little mechanical, but it broke the album up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all in your face. It was like, this starts out with Watcher, this big theatric thing. Then Timetable comes in, settles you down, and then it hits you in the face again with a couple more songs, and then the whole Supper's Ready thing. So that, to me, that's the album with Genesis that you listen to from front to the end.
Now, it's saying that side 2 is Horizons and Supper's Ready. Does Horizons go into Supper's Ready?
Yeah, Horizons is just a short acoustic number.
That's a part of that.
Yeah, it was kind of like an intro to Supper's Ready.
That's crazy. I wonder why they just didn't make it like just that one track.
Well, no, it's because Supper's Ready has a definite beginning.
Oh, okay.
But the acoustic, it's like you can't do Supper's Ready without doing Horizons because it's kind of this little intro thing. And it's like people are expecting it, and then they expect you to go into it's when we play it, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
They're always played together.
My next one here, moving up into 1983, is Sports by Huey Lewis and the News.
Yes.
I mean, just from start to finish, it's just great. The entire album. Like, that's the thing with Huey Lewis and the News, and it really makes me mad that more people don't listen to them past, like Power of Love or Back in Time or, just like the stupid songs, because they have Sports that's just amazing. It's just, they're just one of those bands. You can't really pinpoint exactly what they are. They're just Huey Lewis and the News. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like they're another band where it's like you either love them or you hate them. And if you love Huey Lewis and the News, then Sports is definitely the album that you're not going to skip one single track on because there's no reason to.
Yeah, it had 4 top 10 hits. Wow. Plus the rest of this. Yeah, they had a sound.
Yeah.
And with his voice, now they would call it dad rock, but
dad rock.
Yeah. I remember when this came out, it put them up over the top. You knew they were there with their first couple albums, but then this one did it.
Oh yeah. It's just there's a great band, or were a great band. It's unfortunate they're not together anymore. But yeah, Sports.
Now, when we talk about Rush,
okay,
Rush is a tough one. For me, it is because if you listen to their albums, to me, there's always great music, but then there's always 1 or 2 kind of filler songs. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Hemispheres, Signals, and Permanent Waves. Those are the well, not in that order, but those are the 3 big ones.
Yeah.
But each of those has a song that could be like a throwaway song. So I don't know. Permanent Waves comes the closest to me. Signals became more shorter songs, more pop oriented.
Yeah.
Progressive pop oriented songs. But if Permanent Waves is the one that comes the closest to one that you would listen to from front to end.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I never sat down and actually listened to an entire Rush album. I like Rush, I'm a fan of Rush, but I'm more of a like the singles type fan. You know what I mean? Like I know songs off of all the albums, but I've never sat down and actually listened to an entire one. I think though, based off the track listing, I feel like I would have to say that Moving Pictures is my personal favorite. Then again, I've never listened to The Camera Eye, or which I've actually never even listened to side 2 of Moving Pictures, but it has more songs per capita, for me at least. What else you got there, Michael?
Moving Pictures. Yeah. Oh, okay. This was Jethro Tull. I'm still staying more progressive kind of. Of course, there's Thick as a Brick, which was one big giant song.
Yeah.
So when you listen to it, you had to listen to the whole album because that was a song.
Yeah.
But the Aqualung album.
Okay.
They said it wasn't a concept album, but it was. It was a concept album.
It was based off the character Aqualung.
Right.
And
it was all based off of religion and God and all this. And all the songs kind of relate to that. And you need to listen to the whole thing to hear what's going on and understand it. And all the songs are great. Because Jethro Tull, Ian Anderson was good at having these albums, and he would put a little acoustic guitar ditty in there somewhere with just him and the acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And on every single album. And this one, it's in the right place at the right time. And the songs, each song just builds, comes back down, and everything seems to make sense. So you listen from one end to the other. And that was one of their, well, it's not their first album. It's the one that put them on the map.
Oh, yeah.
But
well, that's the one that everyone knows.
Yeah. Yeah. And deservedly so. It's one of those ones that you need to listen to from front to back so you can understand it.
Yeah. Another album, I mean, that's kind of sort of like that, is actually my next one. We're talking about 1988's Metallicas and Justice for All. And Justice for All is my personal favorite of the Metallica albums. The track listing here starts off with Blackened and Justice for All. I Have the Beholder. One, of course, that was the one that everybody knows, unfortunately, because there's so many more good songs on this album. Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, Frayed Ends of Sanity, To Live Is to Die, Diver's Eve, rather. It's just, I guess it's considered almost like a concept album, just about, the state of the world at that particular point in time, and the anti-establishment and like the government's out to get you, like all that kind of stuff. And I think as one cohesive unit, the album is just amazing. And I would put this album up against any other heavy metal album, especially from that time, and anything after it. It's one of the only it's one of the only Metallica albums that I wouldn't skip any songs on, just because it's that good. I mean, you're talking 65 minutes here of just like you're just in the zone. Like you don't want to skip a song, maybe until one comes on, and I wouldn't blame anybody for that one.
This is the one where how things fit together. This is the one that they lost to Jethro Tull in.
Yeah.
And the best hard rock metal. Somehow Jethro Tull won best hard rock metal performance instead of this album.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was one of the controversial Grammy moments of all time.
Oh, yeah. And it was funny, too, because Metallica was all anti-establishment. Like, we didn't want to win a Grammy anyway. And it's like, that hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
It had to hurt. That would have pissed me off, too.
And Jethro Tull wasn't even there because it was like, what are we doing in this category?
Yeah, exactly.
We're not hard rock metal. Who knows? But how does that compare to Master of Puppets? Do you think
I like Master of Puppets a lot. Master of Puppets, I think, it's definitely my second favorite Metallica album. But I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. It's just it's hard with those two albums because they are so good and they're both regarded as some of the greatest metal albums of all time. But I don't know. I think And Justice for All definitely tops it for me. But Master of Puppets has its own plus sides to it as well. But yeah, I just think as a total cohesive album, I think And Justice for All is the better of the two. But that being said, I do like Master of Puppets a lot.
And there's another one that you need to listen to from beginning to end, and it's a great album. David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust.
Oh yeah, that's a concept too, isn't it?
Yeah, it tells the whole story.
Yep.
And every song on the album is really good.
Yeah.
There's not a bad song on the album. And that whole character he created, Ziggy Stardust, the whole thing, it was just that good. And when you put that album on, way back when it was out, it was you just start at the front and you just let it go. And he turned it over and just let it go because you had to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
or it just was like, why I shouldn't stop.
That's so funny.
It's one of those albums.
And Ziggy Stardust was that album that kind of put him on the map too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was already kind of on the map, but that was the one that did it.
There's also now the Police did not put out many albums as the Police, but the Synchronicity album.
Oh yeah,
every song on the Synchronicity album is a good song, and that's another album you start with at one and you have to keep going because all the songs kind of lead into each other. And as far as for me, it was different than the early stuff. It was the production on this album was incredible. Their early stuff was more sparse and reggae type, but this was more polished and produced. But it's still there's not a bad song on it.
Oh yeah,
and it's when they were I would say we're at their peak as far as songwriting goes because it just flows.
And the thing too is that the fucking the main song that everyone takes from this album is "Every Breath You Take."
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad song by any means.
I mean, even the title track.
Yeah.
There's the title track and there's the Synchronicity Part 2, I think it is.
Yeah.
And both of them, they're really different songs. I don't know why they call them Synchronicity and Synchronicity Part 2. But they're definitely two different songs and they're both great. And the King of Pain, the whole album, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling in that album. That's why it works so well.
Oh yeah. I'm going to contradict myself here now. I just had And Justice for All as my favorite Metallica album, but the Black Album released in 1991, that is an album where you don't need to skip a song. Starts with Enter Sandman, ends with Struggle Within. 62 minutes of commercialized Metallica, but Metallica nonetheless.
Yes.
And it has, you know, you don't have to listen to it in order. At least I don't feel that way. But the way that the album flows, you know, you start off with Enter Sandman, then you have Sabbath, True and Holier Than Thou, then you have The Unforgiven, which is like their, you know, one of their ballady type songs. Then you go through Wherever I May Roam, Don't Tread on Me, Through the Never. Then you have the other ballad, Nothing Else Matters. Then Of Wolf and Man, God That Failed, My Friend in Misery, and Struggle Within. It's just from start to finish. It's just another one of those cohesive albums that work together every song. And it's it was their most successful album, but it's sad that Enter Sandman's the only song on this album that gets so much credit because there's so many other better songs.
There's another hard rock album, another rock album, The Who. Now, when you think of The Who, everybody thinks, okay, well, Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
But no, Tommy, there's some really weird parts in Tommy that I'd like to skip over. There's some like sound effects and things done in there. Tommy isn't my favorite Who album.
Yeah.
Who's Next is the album that every song.
Oh yeah, Who's Next is great.
I think it's when they're at their peak. When you can put Baba O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again on the same album, and then Bargain, My Wife, This Song Is Over, Getting in Tune, Going Mobile, Behind Blue Eyes, Bargain. I mean, it's just one song after the next.
Yeah,
it's like a greatest hits album.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why Who's Next is I think does it for The Who. Every single song. And you have to listen to them because they're all that familiar and that great a song that you wouldn't want to stop because you know what's coming up.
Oh yeah. That's definitely my favorite Who album.
It's not as cohesive, doesn't tell the story that Tommy or Quadrophenia does, but the songs speak for themselves.
Oh yeah. Let's see here. My next one is also an album from 1991. Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears. This was the second album to feature Zakk Wylde, who is my favorite guitar player from Ozzy. But it also features some of the most memorable and best songs that Ozzy has in his catalog. You start the album with Mr. Tinker Train, which is just awesome. I Don't Want to Change the World, which actually Lemmy from Motorhead had a part in writing, as well as Mom, I'm Coming Home, which is probably the biggest song in Ozzy's catalog. Lesser known songs like Desire, SIN comes after No More Tears, Hellraiser, which is another Lemmy song too, Time After Time, Zombie Stomp, AVH, and of course Road to Nowhere, which is another ballady type song. It's just another one of those from start to finish. You don't want the good times to end with this album. Like I said, it's definitely my favorite. It's my favorite Ozzy album, and I think it features some of his best songs. And if you sit down and listen to the entire thing, I think you might agree with me as well.
A lot of Ozzy tonight.
Yeah, I know. He's been getting brought up a lot today.
Okay, here we go. Here's a gimme. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. That's a gimme.
Yeah.
It starts, it just keeps going. I mean, the songs kind of fade into each other anyway, naturally, but it's the story. It's a lot of interpretations.
Yeah.
But, you know, the story of life going from your first breath to the end. It just all fits together. And there's not a bad song. There's not a bad song.
Money, maybe.
That was the first hit record in 7/4. No, that's one of my favorites on the album, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it's just like Money. It's been like overplayed.
Yeah, that's the only problem with
Like
it.
it's been like out of all the Pink Floyd songs, like that one is the one that's just like it's just hammered into you all the time.
The thing that makes that song unique is it was so popular and it's in 7/4.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of popular songs are. And it's got a great sax solo. The guy just wails.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, whoa. And it's, it's kind of what makes that song. And the guitar solo. And the guitar solos throughout that song, yeah. The guitar solo on Time. Again, these are just classic guitar solos.
Now, I'm reading here. It says Dark Side of the Rainbow and Dark Side of Oz were two names commonly used in reference to rumors circulating on the internet. Since at least 1994, The Dark Side of the Moon was written as a soundtrack to The Wizard of Oz. Observers playing the film and the album simultaneously have reported apparent synchronicities, such as Dorothy beginning to jog at the lyric, "No one told you when to run" during Time, and Dorothy balancing a tightrope fence during the line "balanced on the tightest wave" in Breathe. David Gilmour and Nick Mason have both denied a connection between the two works.
Right. And
Roger Waters described the rumors as amusing.
There was, and when it changes from black and white to color, I forget which song that is. It's the beginning of Time, I think it is, when the alarm clocks go off. But there's actually been a couple Pink Floyd tribute bands. There's a lot of Pink Floyd tribute bands out there.
Yeah.
That have done the whole album with Wizard of Oz playing on the screen behind them.
That's so funny.
As part of, they advertise it. Come see us. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And play the movie and see how, and it's like, it really does fit together. Like what? It's a weird, it'd be pretty hard to make a movie match The Wizard of Oz. That's a big task. Maybe it's just a strange coincidence that all the things kind of fit together. But
yeah, it is kind of weird.
It's one of those urban legends.
That's funny.
Yeah, you have to start it at exactly. You have to. There's a certain sequence. They have a whole thing about it. When as soon as the credits start or something, you got to start Breathe, the first song, and there's a timing that or something. But it's an urban legend, but it kind of works.
Oh, well, here we go. How to view The Wizard of Oz with Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah. Okay.
Urban legend claims that if you play Pink Floyd's classic album while watching The Wizard of Oz's incredible synchronicity, well, we've tried it, and here are the results. Let's see here. Insert Dark Side of the Moon to your CD player. Press play. Once the album starts to play, press pause. Then press the track rewind, take it back to the very beginning. Set your CD player for album repeat. Start The Wizard of Oz DVD. We recommend going into the menu and choosing subtitles to play the movie because it lets the music take the spotlight. All right.
It's right there. Wait for the third time.
Yeah, once he roars for the third time, hit play on the CD player. Press mute or turn down the volume on your TV. Confirm the album and the movies are in sync according to eHow. When you see the credit produced by Mervyn LeRoy, the credit should be facing amid the transition from Speak to Me to Breathe.
Yeah. They even have websites for this. To tell you when this started.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pink Floyd's denied the rumor. Absolute nonsense. It's all based on the Sound of Music. Let's see here. Over the Rainbow fits nicely with the iconic light splitting prism design used for the album's cover art. Great Gigs in the Sky, which sounds like the perfect name for a song to go with a movie about a tornado. Oh wow, so running an album to hold up. Oh yeah, so you have to run it 2.5 times for the length of the movie. That's funny. Huh. Okay, here we go. Speak to Me / Breathe. Don't be afraid to care. Leave, but don't leave me. Dorothy shares Miss Goolich's threats against Toto, but Annie M, who was sidetracked, trying the 10 to baby chicks in a broken incubator, snaps, Dorothy, we're busy. Okay. Look around and choose your ground. Dorothy searches the farmyard for someone else to talk to and settles on the farm hands. That's wild. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It's a big conspiracy theory, urban legend.
So, yeah, that's definitely
and of course, Pink Floyd's come out with unbelievable albums since then. The Wall.
Oh yeah,
and Wish You Were Here. Animals. Animals is just incredible. And The Wall being such an iconic album, going along with the Berlin Wall and how they played that on top of the wall when they tore the wall down.
Yeah.
But on all those different albums, there are parts of the album where you get a little lost. While with Dark Side of the Moon, there's never a moment where you get lost.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it one of those ones that you have to listen to.
Well, especially now if you're watching The Wizard of Oz while listening to it, you're not going to get lost at all.
No.
Speaking of getting lost, my next pick is 1995's Alice in Chains' self-titled album, also known as the Tripod album. Now, this one isn't necessarily my favorite Alice in Chains album. However, as a cohesive album from start to finish, I like this one the most, and I don't have to skip any songs. I feel like this is Alice in Chains' laziest album, as I said before on this show. I feel like there was more to offer, but at the point in time with that band and the addictions that they had and the issues, personal issues they had, I feel like this is the best album that they could have put out. But there was definitely more. There's more to. There was more on the table that they probably could have done. It's just it's disheartening that this is the last album to have Lane Staley, because I feel like they could have done way more. But from start to finish, there's no reason to skip any tracks on this album. It's a pretty lengthy listen at 64 minutes, but it's 12 songs, and you have a couple 6-minute plus hitters on here. It's just all around, it's just a good album. And besides Heaven Beside You, there's really Heaven Beside You and Again are the two hits, or the two singles off of this album. But as a whole, I just think from start to finish, this album goes past all the rest. And for all of you Facelift or Dirt fanboys, go back and listen to Self-Titled again. I think you'll agree.
There's an album that when the punk movement started, you would say late 70s, when you had the Ramones, you had the New York Dolls, that whole thing. There was punk and there was rock. And the one album that I think kind of bridged the gap was the Cars' first album.
Yeah. And
if you listen to the Cars' first album, there isn't a bad song on it, and you can listen to it from the beginning to end.
Yep.
And they kind of bridged the gap between the two genres, made punk more popular because it was more melodic, and it was some studio musicians who got together and they worked great, and they became megastars. And they had, I don't know how many hit albums they had, 3 or 4, if not more. But the first one was a real trendsetter, and it doesn't have a bad song on it.
No, and looking at the track listing here, every song on here was a single and a hit in its own right. Honestly, if you were to make a Cars Greatest Hits album, which I'm pretty sure there is, it would have this entire album on it.
Yep.
Let me see here. Is there a greatest hits? I don't know. I can't see one yet.
I think they do have a greatest hits. But you're right. But most of these were released.
Compilations. Here we go. Greatest hits. Yeah, most of that first album is the majority of the album. Cars Anthology. Complete greatest hits. Most of that first album's on there. The Essentials. Most of that first album on there, one on that yet again. That's funny.
And Rick Ocasek being the kind of the leader of the band. I mean, it's a shame that he died early.
Yeah.
Died young of cancer, I do believe. And so he was very talented. Yeah, because they call it rock, new wave, power pop, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was rock and new wave. It wasn't just new wave, and it wasn't just rock. It was both.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's one of them that when you put it on, the songs kind of go together. You're like, no, how?
Oh, yeah.
This one's next. Oh, this one's next. And you just let it go.
Now, another album like that, I would have to say, is the 2004 release from Lamb of God, Ashes of the Wake. Now, Ashes of the Wake is Lamb of God's third album. And every song on there is just incredible. They were a band that were breaking new ground with everything they did. Every song on here had something new to offer you, and it just left you wanting more until you got, until you got to Sacrament. But I mean, you have songs like Laid to Rest and Hourglass, and you have Something to Die For, Emerita, Blood of the Scribe, Ashes of the Wake, the instrumental. It's just great, all around great. And this is actually they did a live stream last year for this album, and they play this album in its entirety. And this is the one that me and Steve sat up in the backyard with the projector screen and watched the live stream of this. And it was great. Actually, it's one of the only heavy metal albums I actually own on vinyl. So that should say something.
They're not as, I guess they're well known in the heavy metal genre, but not as popular as...
They're not mainstream metal band.
I mean, not like Metallica or even Slayer. Like,
yeah, no, they're not. They're because that's the thing, though. You're able to market Slayer and you're able to market Metallica to be able to play them on the radio. You could never play a Lamb of God song on the radio, which is unfortunate because I feel like extreme forms of metal are looked down upon, and if people would just give it a chance and actually listen to it and like get past the vocals part, like trust me, there's some vocalist screamers and I don't like either, but if you can get past that point or even find the melody in it, which I think is, me and Steve had talked about this before, which is what I believe makes Lamb of God so great, is that they're able to bridge a gap in between commercialized music and various forms of extreme metal by implementing, like melody and actual song structure and just technicality in music. And, I think, Ashes of the Wake is definitely an example of what they can do.
And they're always had a stage slot in Ozfest. Because
they were just, they still are to this day, but back then as an up and coming extreme metal band or, heavy metal band, groove metal, speed metal, whatever anyone wanted to call them, they were one of a kind.
What makes Slayer more marketable?
I guess just because of the giant fan base that it has. I mean, the thing is, like back in the 80s and back in the 80s, like bands screaming and shit into the microphone wasn't so acceptable. And then bands like Metallica and Megadeth and Anthrax came about, that whole Big Four thing, and people just love Slayer. I don't see it, but
I mean, they do have a huge fan base.
Insane fan base, like crazy fan base. Like when I saw, it was Cannibal Corpse, Amon Amarth, Lamb of God, and Slayer. When the show started, well, we weren't there for Cannibal Corpse, of course, unfortunately. But when Amon Amarth came on, and we're at the BB&T Center in Camden, we look back, you can still see grass. There's barely anybody there. Lamb of God plays. There's more people. It's like starting to get crowded. The set change happens to Slayer. You look in the back, you can't even see like the back like wall because there's so many people there. It was crazy. But that's the type of fan base Slayer has. Like I said, I don't get it, but there's some people that really enjoy Slayer. I only got one more here. What about you, Michael?
I have there's about 7, I think 6 or 7 more I have. Going away from the metal back to, I guess you would call it in the 70s. There's a lot of Steely Dan albums, a lot of great songs, a lot of session. But if the one album that you can listen to from beginning to end is Asia. I think Asia was their greatest creation.
Okay.
It had a couple of hit songs on it also, but the rest of the album is really good. And it's anytime I put Asia on, I put on the whole album.
Nice.
I don't know how you would. How do you classify Steely Dan?
Well, Wikipedia calls them American jazz rock.
Yeah, I guess yacht rock.
Yeah, yacht rock. That's the new one now.
Yeah, but it won a lot of awards, and it should have. I mean, there was great musicians on it. It was really great songwriting. Yeah, the whole album. If you look at the track list.
That's funny. Yacht rock.
Yeah, I know. But starting out with Black Cow, it's just a good, beat. Asia is just incredible. This piece of music, that whole piece of music is the title track. Deacon Blues, they fit together, these songs. And the side 2, that fits together too.
I'm sitting here looking up what bands are considered yacht rock here. There's it's a very big list.
It's getting bigger all the time.
Chicago, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the Doobie Brothers, Earth, Wind and Fire, Fleetwood Mac. No, hold on. New wave of yacht rock.
Oh no,
is the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac, Robert Palmer,
Foreigner, Darrell, John Oates,
Kenny Loggins,
Billy Joel,
Michael Jackson's yacht rock, along with Michael McDonald, George Michael, Toto, REO Speedwagon, Steely Dan, Carly Simon, Santana,
Gino Vanelli. Gino Vanelli is such an incredible musician. It's a shame that I don't know if it's a stigma or what he has about him, but him and his brother are incredible musicians.
I just don't get this. Like, how do you have a new wave of yacht rock? Like, if all these bands are 40, 50 years old. Get us on social medias. Help us understand this a little bit more.
Christopher Cross, I think, was the original yacht rock. I think it was when he did the songs, when they started playing the song Sailing.
Oh.
I think that somehow started the genre of yacht rock. The song Sailing by Christopher Cross. I think that was the foundation of yacht rock.
That's so funny. But it's just such like a huge, broad list of bands that normally would have nothing to do with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Hall and Oates, I forgot that I missed them. Now, I think Hall and Oates, I think that's like yacht rock, and it's like yeah,
they're not heavy at all.
Yeah.
They're not heavy at all. They're all pop, blue-eyed soul. Yeah, that's what they are.
It's saying right here, the term yacht rock did not exist. Contemporary. Yeah, whatever. Music from 1975 to 84. Adult-oriented rock or West Coast sound. Wow.
There it is. Exemplified by Christopher Cross. Anthem song Sailing. There it is. That's where it came from. There it is. I didn't look at this before either.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rules are the music has to be smooth, even when it grooves. More emphasis on the melody than the beat. Keep the emotions light, even when the sentiment turns sad. Always keep it catchy, no matter how modest or deeply buried in the track list the tune appears to be. Wow.
Not wrong.
You learn something new every day here on Rage Against the Mainstream podcast. So the last one I have here is the 2006 release from metalcore band Atreyu, A Death Grip on Yesterday. Now, this album is my favorite of theirs, without a question. Every song on it is, I think it's great. I mean, metalcore is something that, it's a taboo thing and, huge elitist thing, and whether or not you like it, but they were one of those bands that were starting to be able to bridge the gap in between like commercializing heavier music and like staying true to the form. And like they came out the same time as like Avenged Sevenfold and stuff like that. And unfortunately, Avenged Sevenfold was the band that took off and not Atreyu, because I feel like they were better. And yeah, so A Death Grip on Yesterday that came out in 2006. That album is great from start to finish. You want to get in the last couple?
Yeah, I'll run down these. These are, again, we're going back to yacht rock a little bit. Billy Joel, The Stranger.
Okay.
That album doesn't have a bad song on it, and it's really good to listen to all the way through, because there's a theme to it, and it's really a good album. U2, The Joshua Tree.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the ones that doesn't have a bad song on it. Even though I'm not a big U2 fan, that's one of their, probably their best album. And because it has all the music's there from song to song to song.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, that it's almost every song on that album.
Yeah.
And,
And there was also Fleetwood Mac with Rumors.
Yeah. Rumors is the big one.
Yeah, every song on that album. There's a real old one, which for me was the King Crimson, the Red album from 1974. This is going way back in the roots of progressive rock. The Red album is, because of King Crimson and their writing style, that you had to listen to all the way through.
Oh yeah,
that kind of music. And what do you think about Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction?
I actually haven't.
I was looking at that one thinking,
I haven't actually given that album a full listen in a very long time. I actually forget most of the songs that are on there. Let's see here. Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Night Train. Night Train's actually my favorite Guns N' Roses song. How to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, My Michelle. I feel like Appetite for Destruction is an album where I have to be in the mood to want to listen to Guns N' Roses. And honestly, I think the only reason for that, though, is because of how overplayed a lot of these songs are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's unfortunate that, like Welcome to the Jungle and Paradise City get overplayed because it ruins songs like Night Train and Mr. Brownstone and My Michelle. And of course, we can't forget Sweet Child of Mine. That gets played literally nonstop every 4 or 5 rotations a day. Then, Rocket Queen. I do like Appetite for Destruction a lot, but I think I'd find myself skipping through a majority of that album.
Because you've heard it too much.
Yeah, exactly. It is
not
still,
because it's not good, but because you've heard
because
it.
it's chances are between my walk from the house into the car, I've already heard Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
From someone walking down the street playing it. But yeah, I do like Appetite. It's definitely one of those it's an undeniable album. I think we talked about it last week too.
Yeah, there's probably about another 100 of them, but I think that's...
All right, so what do you guys think? Do you agree with what we have on our list here for unskippable albums? Do you have any that you think that we should have brought up? Is there ones you wish we brought up? Do you think that we talk about Van Halen too much? Get us on our social media accounts.
And then we went all over. We went from Steely Dan to Lamb of God. That's a big jump.
Yeah. There's
that's a big
that's
jump.
the thing.
Yeah, it's a big jump. So we ran the gamut on this.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like most of my lists are always centered around 80s and 90s metal, but I think I did fairly well with spreading this one out a little bit. But find us on our social media accounts. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast, Facebook.com/RATM Podcast, YouTube search Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast, and of course our email ratmpodcast@gmail.com. But let's get into our suggestions for this week. What do you got, Michael?
Well, I don't know. We're talking about the Who a lot for some reason this week, and I have my Who t-shirt on for some reason. But I know we talked about Tommy being their most popular and this big rock opera, the first rock opera and all this. And we talked about Who's Next being the album that every song's great. But there's the Quadrophenia album that I like better than Tommy. I would recommend, if you have never listened to the Who Quadrophenia, it's a rock opera, but it's heavier than Tommy, and I like it better. I would recommend listening to it because it's got a lot of great melodies and great rockers on it.
What's your standout track off of that?
The Punk Meets the Godfather.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, it's one of those albums. Yeah, it's just Quadrophenia. I like it better than Tommy.
My suggestion for this week is actually a new release from sludge metal band Green Lung. The song is called Old Gods. It's off their new album from October 22nd, Black Harvest. Fans of Green Lung or that sludge, doom, stoner metal, this is definitely something up your alley, and especially if you like their past releases. Yeah, can't be beat. It's definitely one of those acquired taste type bands, for bands that like the earlier Black Sabbath stuff and just sludge and doom.
They're a newer band?
They've been around for a little bit now. Green Lung. I think you may have heard them before. I may have played them for you once or twice. I think it
sounds familiar.
I think it's something you might be interested in. But until then, this is another episode of Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast. We're going to hop off here and we're going to go listen to some Green Lung.
Yes.
But once again, you can find us on our social media accounts. Facebook.com/RATM Podcast. Instagram and Twitter at RATM Podcast. YouTube, search Rage Against the Mainstream Podcast. And of course, our email, ratmpodcast@gmail.com. But once again, this is a Rage Against the Mainstream podcast signing off for the evening. I'm Bill.
And I'm Michael.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening.